Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Newscast. It is Friday, so here's all of your retro handhelds, retro gaming, and gaming news. Did you know that I filmed this at 9:25 a.m. in the morning? So if you're wondering why every newscast I look so disheveled, I think you know what I mean. My hair is all a mess, my voice is not even ready yet, all of that. It's because I'm filming this so early in the morning, but I have to because we film and edit in the same day. Why did that matter? It didn't. Let's talk about news. CMU version 0.5, the Wii U emulator, is now out for Android. And this experimental release has implemented options to enable emulated USB devices and configure them. I'm assuming that means you can plug in USB devices to your Android device and use them. So USB controllers and things like that. That is my assumption. I don't know. I'm going off of what this one little line says. Dual screen AYN Thor users, we still don't have an update yet from Sapphire Rhodonite. So this, as you might remember from last week, is another update to the single screen version of the Wii U emulator. So hopefully we get these updates to dual screen AYN Thor at some point in the future. I have no idea if they're working on it, but it would be cool. Next up, we have a new update to the Pico 08 Android emulator from Max, and looks like we're on release 1.6.3, and with it, allows devices to connect controllers to open the Android keyboard with select and start, and some other physical improvements for the keyboard. Nothing major here, but I did want to bring it up because I did a video on the Pico 8 Android emulator months ago, so it has been a while. I haven't checked in a very long time, but it looks like we've gone a whole bunch of releases since then. So that's pretty cool. If you want to play Pico 8 on Android, check out the emulator and play some games. Do you want a new PlayStation Vita emulator on Android? Well, if so, EmuCore V might be what you're looking for. This is an entirely new PlayStation Vita emulator on Android, and it's made by somebody new, as far as I know. I'm not familiar with their previous history of releases, but it doesn't look like it's an AI coded anything like that. This looks like it's a real actual project, just early Vita 3K, which, you know what? If you are going to develop for an emulator in 2026, make it be something that we don't already have something good for. So Vita 3K makes sense. As always, this is an early emulator build, so expect a lot of crashes and issues and things like that. But if you want to try it out, EmuCore V is what you're looking for. And the same developer is also making something called EmuCore X, which is a PlayStation 2 emulator on Android. So PlayStation Vita, PlayStation 2, you have new options to test and play with. I am going to imagine that this is not there yet, but if you want to see what this is looking like, then you can try out EmuCore X. Do we need another PlayStation 2 emulator on Android? Probably not, but until we get a perfect option, we're going to keep having different projects, which is cool. Let's see what they all come up with. ZSNES is back, which is a Super Nintendo emulator, and it is multi-platform, so available on pretty much a bunch of different platforms at this point. I want to say I remember ZSNES from a long time ago, but I don't have any affiliation or anything really to remember them by. They are back. That's all you need to know. And as far as I understand it, they have high-res or upgrades to 7 different games, as well as a whole bunch of different improvements and things like that for Super Nintendo. I don't know how much any of this matters, in all honesty. I think it's not completely there yet from my understanding. Don't quote me on any of this. But if you want to try out something new for a Super Nintendo emulator for whatever reason, then check out ZSNES. It has, according to them, far more accurate CPU and audio cores than the original ZSNES. I don't know how that compares to something like SNES 9X for RetroArch and things like that. But you have fast forward, you have rewind, save states. I don't believe there's retro achievements for those that are using that, so you keep that in mind, and so on. So if you want to try it out. But yeah, it's a new project for Super Nintendo. Then we have the Messen Community Edition, which is a multi-system emulator for Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. So no Android, unfortunately. But if you're familiar with Messen, the NES core, then you will know what to expect here. But they are basically now having NES, Game Boy Advance, PC Engine, Game Gear, and WonderSwan. And so this is a fork, a community-based fork, based off of Messen, and it's expanding to other essential systems, basically. Now, I was told the original developer is involved with this. I don't know if that is true or not, but that's what I was told. So if that's the case, that's pretty cool. It means that we're getting more option for messing on different systems. It'd be cool to have this on Android, and it'd be cool to have this in RetroArch, but I don't know what their plans are for all of that. So if you want to try out some new emulators for multi-systems, then try out Messin Community Edition. Gamma version 1.3.1 is now out for the Ambernic RG Vita. So all 5 RG Vita users get excited about this one. As a reminder, GammaOS is a custom firmware available for Android users on a bunch of different Android devices, not all of them. This is what we talked about last week with the new GammaOS. So if you want to install it on the RG Vita, then you definitely can. And there's just a whole bunch of different things you can do. Just read the entire post as to how to install it. As a reminder that GammaOS is behind his Patreon for, I think it's usually 60 days. Okay, so this one says June 26th. So until June 26th, that is when it'll be behind Gamma's Patreon. So send him a few dollars. He has done so much work for this community on the Android side. If you have an RG Vita, then give him a few bucks and you can install GammaOS on it. As far as what's new, we went over it last week, so I don't want to go too in depth here, but you have the GammaOS Nano, which was the new boot to game thing. There's native OTA updates. There's the gamepad integration and updates there. You have the shader that applies across everything, and there's so much more. You can give it a read if you're interested. And on top of all of that, there is also the same update for the Ioneo Pocket Air Mini, which has a lot larger of a user base. So if you have an Ioneo Pocket Air Mini and you're not happy with the stock experience from Ioneo, then you can try out GammaOS 1.3.1 for it. It is apparently going to be coming to Magmi Air X next. So if you have a Magmi Air X, get excited. There's going to be a new version of GammaOS. GameNative version 0.9.1 pre-release is now out. And just a quick reminder, GameNative is a PC-based emulator for Android. So you play all of your Steam, Epic, GOG games on Android. So this is pre-release. You won't be seeing it with Obtainium. If you use that, you're going to have to go grab it from the GitHub if you want to update to this, or wait for the stable release whenever it comes out. They've added support for Epic's DRM and online play, which is pretty cool. Multi-controller support. So if you want to play multiplayer, I guess that's what that means. They've updated Wine Mono to 11.0. They've updated a whole bunch of different things. They added FSR 1.0 and scaling. I played around with this. It's not completely ready yet. Some things are broken with it. I don't know. I found it weird. Some things looked really bad with FSR, and then some things looked a little bit better. So I don't know. There is new Proton 10 builds, which I know we're on 11 now with GameHub and others, but we're on 10 with GameNative, and there's just a whole bunch more. A lot of updates here, a lot of changes. I don't know. There's a lot. So I updated to this new build personally. I would probably suggest it. It seems stable. I haven't had any issues, and it seems like everything's playing or looking a little bit better. So update if you haven't. Next up is Melon Dual DS has a new beta update for Vulkan support. Melon Dual DS being the Nintendo DS emulator for Android. And basically, we have some new upgrades to Vulkan. And if you remember, we talked about this last week where they added Vulkan to Melon Dual DS. Well, they've updated it even more. So if you want to test out Vulkan on Melon Dual DS and everything that comes with it, then you can report back to the developer and let them know what is working, what isn't, and all that sort of thing. There is also a whole bunch more added, like analog input for games like Super Mario 64 DS, or automatic save and load state management. You also have save file extension selection, which is pretty cool. So you can now change it from .save to .srm. Why would you want to do that? Well, .srm is what RetroArch uses for saves. So if you want to bring saves back and forth from RetroArch to Melon Dual DS, you can now with the save file selection. There's a few other things here, but basically the big change is adding Vulkan and upgrading it. So if you want to check that out, you should. It'll just be an update you have to do from their GitHub. It won't be in Obtainium right now. Next up, we have a new project here, and we have lossless scaling that has been brought to Android. For those that aren't familiar with lossless scaling, it is a PC-based application that does frame generation. So it just inserts fake frames into your games to make them have higher frame rates and be a little bit smoother. Now, I've been asked if I'm going to do a video on this. The answer is no. I don't even like the NVIDIA frame generation. I've used it. I'm not a big fan of it. It's not the input latency, it's the visual part of it. And also, I don't like how it feels, so I don't use frame generation at all. I'll use DLSS all day long, but frame gen, not a thing. But if you want to use frame generation on Android, you can. It's out. So you can play with it. It doesn't work with everything. I don't know exactly what it does work. I think it works with GameNative as far as I understand it. But if you want to play around with it, play around with frame generation, get your 60 FPS games to now be 120 FPS, you can. So play around with it and report back on how it's going. Last of the software news, and this is breaking news, but GameHub version 6.0 is now out. They say that games now start several times faster. It's a lot more virtual controls. You can share your layouts via share codes. You can access a massive library of Epic titles through GameHub, so they added Epic. And there's a retro emulator of some sort. Now, GameHub is PC emulation on Android, same thing as GameNative. However, I did see people say that they added Proton version 11 to this, which should be a big benefit to a lot of games. If you want to test it, check it out. Download GameHub, install it, all that sort of thing. That is as much as I know right now. I don't know exactly what else has changed based off of this. That's all I know. So play around with it, report back on what's exactly new and what to expect. Okay, so question of the week. And question of the week is, how do you get your hair not to be all everywhere? Whatever, we're living with it. Question of the week. This one comes in from an actual viewer, teatime_gaming. He asked me for Newscast question, what game are you the best at? And I thought this would be a good question to send to everybody. So my question to you all, what game are you the best at? Are you going to say GoldenEye or Smash Brothers? Because you're not. I'll beat you at that. My answer here is Rocket League. Even though I haven't played it in a year and a half, 2 years maybe, Rocket League was the game that I was the absolute best at. So that is my answer. I could probably still pick it up right now and beat everybody, but it's been a while. Let me know in the comments, what is your best game? It doesn't have to be a multiplayer game. Whatever it is that you are the best at, that you think you're the best at. And then you go and see a video of somebody who's really good at it, and you're like, I am definitely not the best at this. But anyways, let me know in the comments. Okay, next up, we have news on the Anbernic RG Rotate as far as specs and price goes, but we also found out why they call it the Anbernic RG Rotate. It's because when you see the Anbernic RG Rotate, you rotate yourself 360 degrees and you walk away. That joke will not make sense to a lot of younger viewers, but older viewers will remember what that's from. Anyways, the Anbernic RG Rotate is going to be having an Unisoc T618 inside of it, which, for those that don't know, it is the same processor that the Anbernic RG405M used, as well as the Retroid Pocket 3 Plus, way back years ago, for those that don't remember. You're going to have 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of internal storage, Wi-Fi 5, Bluetooth 5.0, Android 12. There's going to be 2 options. There's a silver aluminum alloy, and then there's a black aluminum alloy plus plastic. So 2 different SKUs. We'll talk about the price in a second. Otherwise, spec-wise, there's 2,000 milliamp hour battery, which they say 5 hours, which I'm assuming 5 hours if you do nothing and you just stare at a screen. Otherwise, that is really about it. They're using a 1x1 screen here. It's a 3.5 inch 720 by 720 screen. So keep that in mind. Now, pricing wise, this comes in from Retro Dodo, and apparently the price is $88 for the plastic version or $108 for the aluminum alloy complete version. On top of that, there is a pre-order discount for 72 hours for $5 off to $83 for the black one and $8 off to $100 for the silver one. Apparently, all of this goes pre-order live on May 11th at 1800 hours Beijing time. We've talked about this device at length over the last few weeks because there's really no other device coming out, and this gets a bump by nothing else happening in the retro handhelds world right now. Like, the Anbernic RG Rotate is the equivalent of, like, you're at the bar at 3 a.m. in the morning, you're like 20 beers deep, and the 2 that's been there at the bar now suddenly looks like a 9 because it's 3 a.m. and you got nobody else. That is the Ambernic RG rotate right now because there's nobody else, nothing else is happening, but it gets a bump because we have to pay attention to it because it is the only single handheld release this year or last few months at least. So that's why it's getting a bump. But otherwise, in a normal day, normal year, like this would just be like, okay, whatever, move on next. My question is, are you buying one? That's what I want to know. Apparently, from the actual dimensions, this looks like it is smaller than the Ambernic RG34XX SP, from my understanding. That is smaller than I expected. I don't believe it going by the videos because that looks bigger, but I guess that's what it is. Dimensions don't lie if that's the case. So my question is, are you buying one? Why or why not? How are you going to deal with the speaker situation? Are you just going to use USB-C to 3.5 millimeter if you're doing that? Or what's your plan here? So let me know in the comments, is it something that you're going to buy? Hey, by the way, did you know that the Steam controller is releasing? In case you haven't been anywhere on the internet this week, the Steam controller is releasing on May 4th. Now, it is going to be $100 for this, and you should probably know about a few negatives to this before you jump right in. I was ready to buy this. I didn't really have use for it, but I was ready to buy it as a controller to test out, see if it might be the best single controller. I did a video on all of my controllers just last week. And if you remember, I basically go for controllers that have actual use cases. So I don't need 20 8-bit DOs or 20 GameSirs. I just need one good controller, and then other controllers need to have a good use case. The Steam controller, before you buy one, you should know this, will not work properly on Android and will not work properly on Windows unless you have Steam open. What that means is you can't go play Game Pass games with it without doing a whole bunch of other things. You can't connect it to Android and play Android, whatever you want with it. It is basically meant for Steam and Steam only, Steam OS, all that sort of thing. For $100, to me, that's not good enough. I mean, for me personally, it is not good enough. If I'm going to spend $100 on it, it has to have compatibility across different operating systems, do different things, all of that. The main use case here is it has the trackpads. So if you want to play something like Civ or RimWorld or whatever that usually requires a mouse, then you have that here and you can use that. My issue there is I've tried that on the Steam Deck and I never liked it. Sure, the trackpads are better than using analog sticks as a mouse cursor. I get that. That I can agree with. But it is still so far behind using an actual mouse that I don't find it somewhere I want to play those games. Like, I'd rather just sit down, have a keyboard and mouse, and play those games. It is not good enough yet from my use cases. So for me, this ends up being a no buy. And not that matters, it's going to sell really well, but for me, I have no use case for this. If it had X input, which would have made it work on Android and work on Windows and Game Pass and all that, I probably would have bought it just to check out. But at this point, I have no use. So I want to let everybody know, just in case you missed that on anything and you're in the same boat that I am, that yeah, it's only going to work with Steam and SteamOS and all of that, which is fine. That's what they made it for. So let me know in the comments. Are you going to buy the Steam controller? Why or why not? Did the reviews sell you on it? Did they not sell you on it? Let me know. I'm very curious. Apparently, the Steam machine isn't even that far behind. So I don't know why they did this, but hey, you might have the Steam machine in your hands pretty soon if that's something you're looking for as well. Last of our device news, and the MSI Claw 8 EXAI Plus is apparently coming. And this is a Panther Lake Arc G3 Extreme handheld that is apparently going to look, I don't know if this is just they used a stock picture or whatever, but I guess it's going to share the same body as the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. I don't exactly know, but if that's true, then I'm out already. I didn't like the 8i. I didn't like the 8i. How do you even say this word? I didn't like the 8 AI Plus personally. It just isn't. It wasn't for me. It didn't feel good. I'm not a big fan of the actual design of it. So I'll be out instantly if that's the case. However, it's interesting to hear about a new device coming out. Apparently, the only listing for this is about €1,600, if I remember correctly, which could just be a placeholder. We don't know. I would probably say that sounds probably right in today's day and age of what something like this would cost. But either way, if you're interested in new MSI Claw 8, then keep an eye out. It's coming. Okay, and we just finished our Game of the Month and ROM Hack of the Month voting. Tomba and Secret of Evermore for Super Nintendo tied for Game of the Month. Wheelspin said that Secret of Evermore won. So if you want to play Secret of Evermore, which I don't know if a lot of people know about it, you can come play it on the Discord. For ROM Hack, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Re-Revenge won, which ended up being a Streets of Rage 2 ROM hack. Had no idea until we actually played it. It is like an hour long. It literally took me an hour to beat it. Super fun. Yes, I beat it already. I know. We have a whole month. It's an hour-long game. What do you want from me? But it was super fun. It was just Streets of Rage with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know what else you need. Secret of Evermore is a JRPG. It's got like 16 hours to beat, something like that. So I'm interested in checking that out. If you want to play these games, come join the Discord. That's what we're doing. And you can play some games on those handhelds that you love. We have no newscast questions this week. If you want to send them in, newscast@joeysretrohandhelds.com, or there's a Discord channel, you can send it in through there. Otherwise, appreciate all for watching, and that's all from me, Townsville, Australia.